My Time at Sandrock has finally left early access, and it has made its debut on the Nintendo Switch. Now, I played My Time at Sandrock for the very first time with no prior knowledge to the game or to its predecessor, My Time at Portia. I played it on Nintendo Switch, and I have some thoughts. Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Payton. It is nice to meet you, it is nice to see you, and welcome to the corner. I was very kindly gifted a key to check out My Time at Sandrock, so thank you so much to Pathia Games for sending me the key to check this one out early. Now, today I'm going to be giving you a first impressions review. I always like to say that my reviews are first impressions, but this one is really a first of the first impressions because I know that there is a lot more game to what I've experienced. But in today's review, I'm going to be going over all of my pros and my cons about playing My Time at Sandrock on a Nintendo Switch for the very first time. Before we get into it, please be sure to click the lovely little like button, as well as subscribe for more cozy, chaotic content. And if you want to see me play cozy games live, including my first look live at My Time at Sandrock, which I've already done on this channel, be sure to check out my live streams, which happen right here on YouTube several times a week. We would love to see you at a stream. Okay, I will shut up because I have a lot to say. Now, before I get into the Nintendo Switch performance, which is definitely a big part of this review, and I will be showing you Nintendo Switch footage throughout the entire course of today's review video, I want to review the actual game content first before I get to the performance, as like I said, this was my first experience with this game. So starting out, I want to talk about the story of My Time at Sandrock. My Time at Sandrock takes place in a post-apocalyptic, mainly desert-esque world, 330 years after the Day of Calamity destroyed most modern technologies. After accepting a job to become Sandrock's newest builder, your character, person playing, me, you, us, we arrive in the wild and rugged city-state where it's up to you and your trusty tools to restore the community to its former glory. In the game, you'll get to gather resources to build machines, befriend locals, and defend Sandrock from monsters, all while saving the town from economic ruin. Now, I will say, this game actually has a pretty hefty amount of story content, with Pathia Games citing that the main storyline of the game can be completed in 50 to 70 hours, which I think is a pretty big amount of time by itself. But in addition to the main storyline, the game also includes 107 side quests, 143 romance quests, 21 NPCs to romance with, 14 minigames, 27 dungeons, and over 60 types of monsters, and among them, there are 15 bosses. During my first impressions of the game, I will note that the story does seem pretty present off the bat, and there are a decent amount of cutscenes in the game to keep you going along with the story. However, I do kind of think it is a bit drawn out, or perhaps it is just been a slow start in my several hours of experience. I just feel like I didn't really get to any point where the storyline is really ramping up. I definitely didn't hit any major story points in my first impressions, but I also think that is because the main quests are very grindy, but we'll get into that in a little bit. The next thing I want to talk about in My Time at Sandrock is the world that we are entering in this game. In My Time at Sandrock, you're mainly dealing with Sandrock, of course, which is located in the middle of the Alliance of Free Cities, and it's connected to some other places, specifically it neighbors Portia, which you might know if you played My Time at Portia. The city is also part of the Eufaula Desert, which has vast cliffs and canyons, and is inhabited by many monsters. By exploring it, you'll find old ruins to dive into, and many raw materials to collect. And I can confirm from my experience that the world does feel pretty vast. And I think that's one of the issues it has when we talk about Nintendo Switch performance, but the world does feel big, grand, and interesting. Not only does the world feel very wide, but it also feels very tall, as there were many times I found myself looking up at ginormous structures and also looking down to very, very deep valleys to explore. So far, I have to say exploring Sandrock has been one of my favorite parts of the game. Both the desert area and the area with the populated town feel equally interesting and full of things to do and see. The map system in this game is also pretty easy to understand, which is always one of my issues with games where you have a big map to explore. This one's pretty easy to understand. And I think they do a really nice job of indicating when you need to go to some place to trigger the next cutscene for the story. My only con about this is the text that shows you how far away you are from the next location is ridiculously small, even if you are playing handheld and have your Switch very close to your face. I will also say that this game is mainly desert, so if you're expecting a life sim that's like luscious, full of woodland and farming, it's not gonna be that experience. While there is farming in it, this is a desert. We're in the desert, and it definitely feels like you're in the desert. Moving on, I want to talk about the characters in my time at Sandrock. In my time at Sandrock, you'll get to know over 30 new characters with, like I said before, a very large amount of side quests. In Sandrock, you can befriend, gift, romance, and even engage in combat with the characters. And notably, this game is voice acted, and it does really assist in helping you find out more about the characters' personalities. While I did love certain voices more than others, the inclusion of the voice acting was something I did appreciate overall. However, I did have a bug in my game that was that not all of the lines of dialogue were fully voiced, leaving very awkward silences sometimes, but this has been flagged as a known issue for the game, and it's meant to be fixed by launch, as well as some of the characters don't blink when they talk, and their mouths don't move, which is sometimes very unsettling. But hopefully this bug will be fixed by the time you play the game, if you decide to do so. As for the characters themselves, I really applaud the diversity and depth to the characters. They all feel like they have a story to tell and a true personality. They definitely don't feel like carbon copies of each other, and they don't really feel shallow. I also love that we get to see characters of all ages in this one, and not just the hotties that are around for the romance part, though of course I do appreciate those. But the inclusion of older townsfolk and children really served to make this game feel like a full society full of fun personalities, and I appreciate that. The next thing I want to talk about is crafting. Crafting is definitely the main mechanic for this life sim game. While there are moments of farming, this is definitely not a farming sim game. It is really one that centers around crafting and building, which makes sense because, you know, the story is about you being the new builder in town. It's very clear that the emphasis is on building here. Building process, though, I did find to be very grindy. It feels like there's about 10 steps to build literally anything in the game. And while I did find the resource gathering to be very satisfying, I had a bug that, to be honest, is the reason why I didn't play as many hours of the game that I wanted, and that was that it wouldn't give me the descriptions of any of the materials. It would just show me a picture, but the picture was so blurry and it would just like look like a rock. So I didn't know, like, okay, what rock is that? What ore is that? I didn't know. And when I clicked the button that said show more details, nothing happened, which was very frustrating as pretty much the whole game relies on you needing to collect the right resources and build things. And when figuring out what you need to collect is difficult, everything feels kind of difficult. I do like that you need to utilize different machines to process materials and that you kind of end up having like a bunch of different machines to do things. I kind of like that. I know that's like definitely not the most efficient way to do things. Like, there were other farming sim games and life sims that do that too. I kind of like that when you end up having a bunch of different machines and you have everything cooking at once. This one, I did like that, but like I said, it just felt very grindy, and every time you think you finally are on your way to building the thing, you need to do like 10 more steps to do something else. Moving on to what I think is the best part of the game, and that is the mining. Now, if you know this channel, it's no secret that I like mining in most of these kind of games, but this was one of the most unique mining experiences I've definitely ever had. After unlocking a lift to go down into a salvage yard, you'll get some goggles that help you spot where items will be, as well as a jetpack to get around. And this was a super unique mechanic and made the mining really fun. The mines in this game are also ginormous, and navigating them is very different from most mines I see in life sims. You can pretty much dig wherever, and it does get super windy and complicated. You're not just hitting rocks to look for a way down, you're really like hitting walls and going literally below you, and it's a little crazy and kooky, but it was definitely really interesting. There are also explosives in this mine that go off randomly, which I also think make it more challenging and intricate, and like I said, the mining was probably my favorite part of the game, and it's where I spent most of my time in my playthrough. Now let's get into the combat. This game isn't all building and exploration. There is actually a great deal of combat in this game. I have to say there's a bit more than I was expecting. Not only can you take on your fellow Sandrock citizens in combat, but there are tons of monsters lurking in the desert. And to be honest, I'm kinda mixed about how I feel with this combat in the game. I really like getting to take on other characters, and I think it is absolutely hilarious that you can pretty much fight most of the NPCs, and you get to choose your own weapon, and everyone has their different combat and skill level. And I think that part of the fighting the other NPCs is really fun. But what I didn't love so much is the fighting the monsters around Sandrock and in the desert. I really just didn't like how the monsters looked in the game, as they didn't feel very cohesive to me. They felt like a little bit more all over the place, and to be honest, there is more of them than I personally would have liked to see, and what I kind of was anticipating to be a more cozy exploration building game. There's definitely quite a bit of monsters in your way. I also didn't realize that all of the wild animals are also monsters, so because some of them like really look like monsters, and like you're like, what is that monster looking thing? But then some of the other monsters are just like wild animals. For example, there was this yak I found in the wild, and I thought perhaps you could befriend the yak and then they could like come down to your workshop and, you know, be on your plot of land. No, I engaged in some very unwanted combat with a stampede of yak that I wasn't prepared for. I will say though, a positive note is I've been able to run around the monsters for the most part, which I do appreciate, but sometimes they kind of just like jump out of the rocks whenever you're hitting them, and they gave me some jump scares along the way because some of them look like bugs. And I'm a cozy gamer who believes combat can be cozy, and I have really enjoyed some games this year that have the inclusion of combat in them. This one just wasn't one of my favorite ones as far as the combat went. I also found it difficult to actually ever get any hits in because it was kind of hard to control on the Switch, I felt like, which we'll get into now. Now, we're gonna talk about the most important thing I think in this video, which is the Nintendo Switch performance. And I'm gonna be honest, I've given a lot of reviews on this channel, and more so these days, I do play games on PC. If I'm given the option of buying a game on Switch or buying a game on PC, I always prefer to play on PC just because I just always have a better experience. Now that I have a Steam Deck as well, it just always seems to run better than most games do on Switch. But when I was given this opportunity to try this game out for Nintendo Switch, I definitely wanted to give it a go and give you my honest feedback about it, because I know so many of you are Nintendo Switch players, firstly, and sometimes you're only a Nintendo Switch player. And so I don't always do reviews about game performance. Like, I'm definitely not the most advanced commentator on what it's like to run a game on Nintendo Switch. But from what I would call like your average cozy gamer, I can say I don't think this game runs well on Nintendo Switch. And I think if I'm saying that as someone who doesn't normally care about like graphics and stuff like that, I think that says something, to be honest. So what happened? What didn't work? I did a first look live stream on this channel, and when I was playing there, I actually said that it looked okay. I think I wasn't paying that much attention, and I also think I wasn't aware of what the game is meant to actually look like, and it wasn't until I watched like the trailer and footage of the PC version that I really understood just how different the Switch version looks, as well as the main thing was I experienced a completely different experience playing docked and streaming to my computer than playing handheld. While my Switch was docked and I was playing on stream, I experienced stuttering with the visuals, long loading screens, a soft kind of blurry haze over all of the graphics overall, and that was, you know, kind of it, like things popping in and out a little slowly. But playing handheld, everything kind of got much worse. Everything is so blurry when you're playing handheld that it is so hard to read any of the text. The blurry kind of haze, I feel like, just got so much stronger. Items pop in and out so frequently. There is so much less detail than there is in the PC version, which you can see literally just from looking at the trailer as well. The loading screens were even longer. They were so hard to get through. And I'm gonna be honest, I had the intention to play this game for many more hours than I actually ended up playing, because I wanted to experience more things in the game. That's why I'm saying this is definitely a first impressions, because I didn't get to experience quite everything. But I just felt like I couldn't proceed. Every time I would hit one of those loading screens, which were so long, it just completely took my attention away. And also just not being able to see the descriptions of the items that I needed was so tough too, and I constantly just felt like I didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't have enough of a reason to try to figure it out. I ended up having to like Google some things, just being like, where do I find the resource that looks like this photo in my time at Sandrock? And then it was like, oh, I can't even get that resource yet anyway, because I need to do like 20 other things. So yeah, the Nintendo Switch performance on this one, I do not think is great. Moving on to my overall thoughts. Overall, I can safely say if you're going to be checking out my time at Sandrock, I would strongly recommend playing it on PC instead. I don't think the game is unplayable on Nintendo Switch, but I do think it is not the best it could be. I think that it does cause some points of frustration, and I do think you could probably have a more seamless experience over on PC. That being said, I do think the storyline of the game is interesting. I do think the characters are interesting. I do think the world is really unique, and I did like looking for resources and the beginning of the building process, but this is definitely going to be a game that has you grind quite a bit, and I would say this is less of a cozy experience than some other life sims you might be used to. So as from the context of a cozy gamer, I don't think this was the most cozy of the cozy gaming experiences. But I want to know your thoughts down below. I'm not gonna lie, I've been really nervous to make this video because my time at Sandrock has been in early access for so long. I know it is such a beloved game, and so many people have like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours in the game, and I'm not going to just give up on it completely, but I do think I will be paying it a visit over on the PC instead to see if it really grabs me more, and if it was just the Nintendo Switch that was taking me out of the immersive experience of the game. But let me know your thoughts down below. Will you be checking out my time at Sandrock on Nintendo Switch? Have you played it in early access? What are your thoughts? I want to know down below. Please be sure to click the lovely little like button on your way out, as well as subscribe for more cozy, chaotic content. Thank you so much for being here. I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye!